3, 2.
I got everybody pregnant with Barry Katz and semen.
I'm not comfortable with the tone this is taking.
If you're undeniable, you will not be denied.
If you want to be successful in show business, you get yourself a true white manager like Barry Katz.
Being a manager is just turning no's into yeses.
Creating holy shit moments. Undeniable.
You're fucking firing me up, Katz.
I love this man.
Is there anything else I should know?
You're on. What? Now I'm on the air.
Barry Katz, back in the house.
Let's do this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Industry Standard Questions Answered. I like this way to do the podcast once a month. The feedback has been incredible, and anything I can do to be of service or helpful or answer some questions. It's just one man's opinion, or should I say one person's opinion, because I don't want to get canceled. But I'm excited for today. And if you need to reach me, you can do so at Barry Katz on Instagram or Twitter or X. Or you can reach me on my website, barrykatz.com. And obviously, if you want to see these and all of these, you can go to the YouTube channel or on audio, wherever your podcasts are. All right, so without further ado, let's answer some questions. I have people send these in. Sometimes I don't even have them send them in. People just send them in from all over the world. And I don't really like to look at them that much before I come in here, because it becomes more inspirational. And again, this is just my opinion. As my mother used to say, there's many ways to skin a cat. So let's go. First question is from Hannah from Vienna, Virginia. I'd like to know more about how entertainment, specifically comedy, can be used as a form of rebellion and resistance in our society. How can young artists use their comedic voices for good, for change? And what does that look like in the past? All right. Thanks, Hannah. It's a fascinating question. It's really, really great question. And how the world normally works, not just in comedy, but in all walks of life. Look, we're seeing it this week during the Trump guilty verdicts, 34 counts. And Robert De Niro is at the microphone in front of the courthouse. And he's using his platform to do what he feels and he believes is right and what cause is right. And in exchange, there's people who are railing him and saying bad things about him, including the former president. He's out in the crowd getting riled up, shouting expletives at people to fight for what he believes in. The difficult thing about it is the fact that when you do take a stand, it's polarizing, and you have to be ready to accept that. I remember this, and I'm probably paraphrasing. People ask a lot of athletes, why don't they get involved in any kind of social change or any kind of initiatives? And I remember they asked Michael Jordan, and his answer actually reflected his thoughts, but the spirit of how he answered it addresses this question. He said even Republicans buy sneakers. And so the reason why you don't see a lot of people in all walks of life take a stand is because a lot of times the backlash is enormous. But then there's people that we see like Bill Maher who are really fighting for what he believes in, and he's been on the air for, God knows, close to 30 years. And he has decided his place. And obviously, there's 50% of the population that probably don't want to go see Bill Maher. They don't want to watch Bill Maher. But he's accepted that, and he loves to take that stand. There's comedians like Nick DiPaolo and Dennis Miller on the other side who take a stand. But they know that the risks are great, and they know that they're going to alienate a lot of different people in the process. So what I'd say to that is that for me personally, to share with most artists, I would probably lean on caution, which is very rare for me, and leave change and activism to people who are political and in those realms of the world. So if you are a political comedian and that's what your lane is, then lean into it. But if you're a comedian who has been entertaining your whole life, or an actor who's been entertaining your whole life and doing it your way, and then suddenly you decide to take a stand when you haven't before, it's probably going to be very damaging and cut into your revenue. I don't think that Kathy Griffin is doing the same business she did before she took a stand against Trump. But she took a stand, and I respect that. And the other thing I should say is that if you're a comedian who has nothing to lose and you can't possibly get canceled, then you can go forward and do whatever you want to do. You know, Chappelle is at the top of his game. He doesn't have a television series. He's not doing movies that require studios to have a certain amount of people watch them or go to the box office. So he can take a stand on issues and do really, really well. Louis C.K. with the things that have happened to him in his life. In his opinion, and many, many others, probably including me, is that, you know, for 99.99999% of his career, he did things in a way where anyone would say amazing. And he made some mistakes, and they're valid mistakes. But that unbelievably gave him the license to build his own career the way he wanted to build it. His choice. You go to his website, it's like a store. You go see him, you can see him at Madison Square Garden. He's not worried about getting canceled. He's got his audience. So he has that platform, and he's really not going to lose. He's turning people away. So is Chappelle. But the people who are sort of in the middle find it very tough to take a stand. And when they do, I think it's hurtful. So it's just up to the comedian of how you decide to do it. Normally, what's the best way to do it is when you're starting your career, you're picking your lane. people from the past like Will Durst or Jimmy Tingle, who has his one-man show in New York. Phenomenal political comedian. And that's his lane, and that's what he's chosen, and he doesn't lose anything by going for it from the beginning, and it's something people respect him for. And, you know, these people who do it, they stand on the shoulders of people like Lenny Bruce, who were doing things differently back then, or George Carlin, who, you know, incredible pieces throughout his 14 comedy specials that really shined a light in a very unique and authentic way on the world and world issues, sometimes leaning towards one side or the other politically, and sometimes just leaning on the problems with both parties. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry I was so long-winded. And we'll go to the next one. Thank you so much. This next question is from Juhee Park from Dongtan, South Korea. I hope I got that right. Many comedians like Adam Sandler make animated projects and or do voice acting on many animated shows and feature films in lieu of professional voiceover actors. What do you think about this? Thank you, Juhee. Animation has always been interesting. I've been involved in it through clients doing it throughout my whole career. The biggest thing that always bothered me about animation is never really paid what the regular work on camera did. You know, I remember working with a tremendous actor and voiceover specialist, John DiMaggio, and I remember he got the role of Bender in Futurama with Matt Groening, and I was just like, holy crap, this is huge, this is amazing. And then I remember getting the deal and them saying it was their final offer, and it was like a fraction of what a person would be paid on camera. However, the more the show gets successful, the more you can renegotiate, and it obviously becomes greater. But and that's why John DiMaggio probably why he lives in a palatial mansion that I've been to and has a beautiful life. But I think they have celebrities doing a lot of animation because they're willing to pay them more for their cachet, for their name, for their box office appeal. And no matter how great Billy West is as a voiceover person, you're always going to be in a better position if you have Matt Damon or Eddie Murphy or any huge star voicing a lead character in your movie. And so that's why they do it in lieu of regular voiceover actors. You want people to look in the notes of the movie. You want them to look on the poster. You want them to see the promotion. And you want to see people who are well known. And granted, there are people in these movies that maybe aren't as well known, like in Ice Age, a comedian, Ben Glebe, played one of the roles in Ice Age, but he wasn't a box office star, but he was one of the characters that didn't require to sell or promote the movie. But for the most part, that's what's going to happen in these projects that need to have eyeballs on them. And the people who get the voiceover jobs that are the regular voiceover actors, a lot of times are, in other products or other commercials where they don't require a celebrity to do it, the product sells itself or the series concept sells itself, and you just want the best possible voice. And so people like Piot Michael, who is a genius when it comes to voiceovers, but isn't Eddie Murphy or Matt Damon, works nonstop, and now is the voice of Yoda for television, and but Yoda is a character that doesn't require a celebrity. Yoda is the celebrity. And so there's a lot of shows that don't necessarily require that because they have the cachet or they have the concept. So I hope that answers your question, Juhi. Thank you so much. All right, next question is from Dennis Harrington from Dorchester, Massachusetts. If you're a local comic doing small local shows and you want to get to the next step and start opening for touring comedians, is it common practice to message them when they're coming to your town, or by sending a recent set and asking for a guest spot? Or does that annoy them and make you look bad? Thank you, Dennis. I always believe in persistence and reaching out. Most everything that anybody's ever gotten in terms of my attention is people that reach out and follow up and keep following up and do it in a way where it's not annoying, it's fun, it's unique. They figure out a way through their wordsmanship to get me on their side and to have me want to do something special with them. Those are the people that I respond to. Think about it. For all the people watching, think about, I don't know, anything that you might need or whatever it might be. Who are the people that you're more likely to work with? You're more likely to work with the people that keep reaching out to you, keep following up, because they're the first thing in your mind. They're present. So it never hurts to message comedians that are coming in, to DM them, to figure out a way to get to them, to stop by and introduce yourself to them at places where they might be in a major city. There's comedians that I know in the past year that have opened for over 10 different comedians by being persistent, by sending out the video, their best video, short, great. Because the headliner isn't going to watch a 20-minute video of you, even though they might want you for 20 or 30 minutes. They're going to watch a good 5 minutes. And if they really like you and they're looking for more, they'll ask you for more. But that's the way you get to them. Every headliner has their own people that they like to use, that they feel safe with. That's always the way it is. But there's always a time when one of them's working, one of them can't make it, they're doing their own thing, or the MC can't make it, or they're doing other shows somewhere else. And there's always an opportunity, and even if it doesn't come during that time where that comedian is coming to town to headline, they'll remember you for the next time. Or if you're smart, you'll let them know, hey, you'll look on their calendar, let's say they're in Charlotte, and you say to them, hey, listen, I just want to let you know I'm going to be in Charlotte during that weekend, and I'd love to work with you. Well, you're not in Charlotte. But if they reach out to you and tell you, yeah, I'd love that if you're in Charlotte, then get to Charlotte and do the gig. Anything you can do to advance your career is beneficial to you. And just like when you have persistence in getting on stage, you become a better comedian than the comedian that has less persistence getting on stage. It's always going to help you. I have assistants and interns that have come and worked with me from across the country. There's one of them who came a couple of months ago. He's done over 50 open mic shows. He's been at the Improv. Another one has been at over 100 open mic shows. Yet, I know comedians who are not even near their level, and they don't go on. They don't have the fight. They don't have the excitement and the passion to fight through whatever's going through their mind and have the persistence to get on wherever they can. So, again, Dennis, my answer is just be persistent, be fun, be unique with them, and make them feel safe. And you'll work your way in. Might not be the first time, might not be the second time, but it'll happen. And hopefully by the time it happens, your act will be as strong and consistent and powerful as possible. Hey everybody, it's Barry Katz, and I wanted to talk to you about Blueprint for Success. This is a community that I put together during the pandemic to help all artists of every walk of life in the entertainment business. No matter where you are in that part of this journey, it's designed to help you. There are podcasts with people that will inspire you, like Kevin Hart, Judd Apatow, Bill Burr, that you can't find anywhere else but on this program that I've interviewed, to times where we get to talk to executives in the business that you would never have access to tell you what you need to hear and to answer your questions, to all sorts of different videos and master classes designed to help you get to the promised land. That's what the Blueprint for Success is. Doesn't matter whether you want to be a stand-up comedian, a sketch performer, a podcaster, an actor, an actress, director, writer, social media person, whatever you want to be. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've had the honor and been humbled to represent people like Chappelle, Wanda Sykes, Louis C.K., Dane Cook, and probably over 20 other people who went from a studio apartment to being a multi-millionaire and a household name. And I want that for you, and I wanted to take the time with this program to be able to help you on your way there, to get there and to heighten and increase the trajectory of your career. Blueprint for Success is the way to go. I'm proud to be a part of this program, and I'd be proud to have you to be a part of it too. All right, next question is from Antoine from Denver, Colorado. How has comedy and entertainment evolved with the rise of digital platforms? And what are the best ways for comedians to leverage these platforms to gain visibility and growth? All right. Great question. I am humbled and blessed to have worked with Dane Cook, and knowing that he was the first person to ever use social media to help enhance and accelerate his career. It's one of the most exciting times of my life to have a guy say to me, listen, we need to build a website. And I'm thinking to myself, what's a website? Or him saying, hey, we got to capitalize on the social media thing. Let's get on MySpace. And knowing there were really no comedians on MySpace. And building things up in a way where he was creating comedy bits on Napster and putting the tag of his website, danecook.com, on it. So he could use all forms of digital communication and videos and audio to get an audience, which within a short time was able to let him press a button and sell out Madison Square Garden twice in one night and Boston Garden twice in one night on two separate occasions. Unprecedented. And we're seeing it more and more today, which is so exciting when you look at the fact that there's probably 10 stand-up comedians who can sell an NBA arena. If they don't do it in the round and where it's 15 or 20,000, at least they can sell it Presidium, which is when the stage is at the end of the arena. At least they can sell like that for 10 or 12,000. And they're all doing it because of their digital presence. They're all doing it because they built their brand. You know, I worked with Bert Kreischer for, I think, 8 years. And so proud of what he's done, because your parents always said to you, when a door closes, a window opens. A lot of doors closed for Bert. But he just opened the window and started doing his podcast and gaining a following. And he believed in himself. And it starts with the belief in yourself as an artist. It starts in the belief in yourself and what you can do. But then it also involves you being able to recalibrate if the world doesn't rally around you the way you believe they should. So yes, Andrew Schultz, bought back his special from Comedy Dynamics and put it on a YouTube channel, and now is selling out NBA arenas. That's really impressive. But Andrew would be the first to tell you that there's hundreds, thousands of comedians that have specials that they put on their YouTube channels, and nothing has happened. So you have to know what to do and how to do it, and also you have to have the content that's going to blow people the fuck away. And if it's not blowing people the fuck away, then chances are that you have to change things up. But normally the way to do it is, again, through persistence and consistency. If you post something funny every day for 365 days, you have more lottery balls in that big glass round hopper than the person who does it once a week or does it inconsistently. If you brand all your social media pages in the similar or same way, so people understand what your brand is, what your logo is, what you're all about, and your YouTube channel as well, and the videos there, you create something that a crowd wants to come to, presuming you're saying something that means something to people, that resonates with people. And I think that's the most challenging thing. Some comedians, they go on, they headline shows in their towns, and they're doing well, and people are loving what they do. But then sometimes they put the stuff up on social media and digital platforms, and it doesn't work. And the challenge is, how do they recalibrate it so it does work? But isn't that true of all things in life? If you're renovating your bathroom and the contractor comes in and you don't like the way he's doing things, then you change it. If you're going through your life eating a certain foods all the time, and then you decide to change it up and you get healthier, you have to attribute it to the understanding that you haven't changed who you are. You're just changing how you're treating things and approaching things. But the biggest thing is you have to just start. You have to start. You have to pick a day and just start and be consistent every day with your digital communication to the world. You have to make things funny, not just funny to you or funny to your family. It has to be funny to the world. Then you have to study what videos of yours do the best and the ones that don't do the best. Look, I have this social media team, one guy in New Zealand, another guy in Seattle, another person in Florida, one here. And they just shared with me on our weekly meeting that these pieces that I've been putting up once every 2 weeks that are animated and of comedians giving advice have the lowest engagement and have the lowest views of anything I put up there. And they're not working. And the advice is f***ing phenomenal. It's amazing advice. But the audiences in the world aren't engaging with those pieces and the animation. So now I know that, okay, even though I love those, it doesn't matter what I love. It matters what the world loves. So I've got to stop doing those and do things that are more personal. And unbelievably, sometimes there's things that you put up that you don't even understand what's happening. Like I remember Tom Dreesen told me a story about Frank Sinatra. And I told that story that he told me. Over 1 million views. I would never have thought that. But then it made me realize that stories are good. Animation with stories, not so good. And so, Antoine, work to make funny pieces every day. If you don't have the time, then film 7 pieces in one day and bank them up and edit them and then launch them every day across all platforms. Let people know that you're hilarious, that you're undeniable, and you deserve their attention. And your audience will grow, it will build, and then pretty soon you'll be working in clubs and venues and theaters that are sold out because those people want to come see you. They want to follow you wherever you go. It's not just following you on social media. It's following you to the hard ticket that they're paying to see you and meet you. All right. Next question. This question is from Chile in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Nice. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What motivates a person to pursue a career in stand-up comedy versus treating it as a hobby? That's a great question. Chili, I can't tell you the motivation of what goes through everybody's mind, but I think it's a great question for everybody listening is how do you decide when you're doing things on the side and when you're doing things as a profession? Look, I do this podcast. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I love it. Is it my profession? I don't think so. Is it a hobby? I don't think so either. But it's something that I love to do. It's something that means something to me. It's something I can do. I don't want to say spare time because I've been chastised by somebody who shall remain nameless by saying I do things in my spare time because nobody wants to hear, according to them, which I agree with, that you're doing anything in your spare time for them or for yourself. But I look at comedy this way. If you're working every day, I'm not talking about a professional comedian, because a professional comedian already has made that decision that Chili's talking about. But when you're starting to do stand-up comedy, you either know or you don't in your heart that it's what you want to do, and you'll do anything to make it happen. And that's why I believe that people do it who are successful. You give everything to it. And the work that you do that makes you money as you're developing yourself as a comedian is the last thing from your career. Whether you're waiting tables or working in an office or whatever it is, that's the thing that you hate the most when you know you're doing comedy as a profession. When you know you're doing it as a hobby is when the work that you're doing is your career, and then at night you're doing comedy once in a while, but you have no aspirations of making it your career. You know, people always ask me what the definition of a stand-up comedian is, and it's like, I'm a little critical and harsh when it comes to this, because I believe you're a stand-up comedian when you're getting paid and when you actually get hired and you're of value to the community. And if you're doing it for free, then even though you say to people you're a comedian, you're just practicing to be a comedian. You know, it's like you're not a doctor when you're going through medical school. You're not a lawyer when you're going through law school. You're only a lawyer when you get your degree and you start making money for the work you do. Same with being a doctor or any professional situation. And I think that's what it's all about. It's hobby, even though you really want it with all your heart, it's still going to be considered a hobby until you get to the point where people find you valuable and they pay you. And that's the goal. But I will say this, there's many young comedians that don't get paid that I know it's not a hobby, and I know that's all that's on their mind is how can I make it and get to the next level as a comedian and get paid and be a regular at a comedy club that I respect, and then work comedy clubs all over the country, and then work theaters. And those are the people that really excite me, not the people who just stay at home and decide not to go out that night because they're tired or whatever. Again, this podcast seems to come around to the same word over and over again, persistence. And I think that's what determines whether something's a hobby or if you're a professional comedian. All right, next question from Remy from Margate City, New Jersey. From a comedy writing perspective, do you believe creating original stories or real-life adaptations are stronger storytelling mechanisms? We've all seen adaptations on award shows that win Academy Awards and Emmy Awards. But most of the time, we never remember those people, and they never have the cachet or the huge name around their work. Whereas the people who don't adapt and do storytelling through their own mechanisms are the ones that rise so quickly and get such a name for themselves, because the world loves that. The world loves the original story. You can look at anything, even recently with comedians like Bert Kreischer, the movie The Machine. You know, people love a person's story. And it's really, really important. I think of shows like Louie or Curb Your Enthusiasm. These center around real life stories, not adaptations of great stories that somebody else did that you're bringing to the screen. And it's always going to be more beneficial to work around that and not do parodies of things. And I say this, and it's not meant as a knock, because there's a lot of people who've been very successful who do parodies or movies that are along the theme of like a Star Wars theme or a Kentucky Fried Movie kind of format or things like that, or just adaptations of movies like Frankenstein or insert project here. It happens all the time. And those people probably make millions of dollars. But the bottom line is the people who create their own stories and fight to bring those stories to television and film and make it happen are always going to garner the most respect, have the biggest name out there, and be the most valuable and desired. And I always encourage people, whether it be the smallest story that they put up on social media to writing their life story in film or a television series about a segment of their life, it's always going to take you to the promised land. Next question from Caesar in Los Angeles, California. How does a strong joke or one-liner turn into a strong, long bit or routine? It's a great question. As a comic, it's the best thing in the world when you come up with your premise of what you want to talk about. That's normally the first thing you're going to figure out. And if you have the great original premise, you have the launching pad for a great original joke and a great original second joke and third joke and fourth joke and fifth joke and tag and callback around that routine. But you got to start with the great premise first. And it could be anything. You know, I was in New York City and I must have gone to see Dave Chappelle at the Comedy Cellar 4 different times. If you haven't been to the Comedy Cellar in New York City, they have 3 rooms presently, and they're building a 4th, and it's incredible. The level of talent is just insanity, and the level of premises are tremendous. But the reason why I mentioned Dave Chappelle is a few years back he started doing this thing that really is a great exercise for him. He'll just be talking and finishing a routine, and then he'll just go into something else, marriage. And then he'll start talking to the host who's in the doorway. Hey, Joe, what do you think about marriage? Now, Dave has no idea what Joe's going to say. But Joe might say, I don't know, I like marriage, Dave. I think you might want to settle down soon, Dave. Really? And then he'll go off into a routine about marriage and thoughts about it and navigate that. And I think if you take any premise that you have, and again, with the word of the day, persistence, you sit down and you pretend that there's 100 different comedians in a room with you. You know, if you gave them that premise, that everyone is going to write a different joke to it. So you have to pretend that you almost are a different comic looking at the premise, and then start writing jokes for it. And when you tire yourself out, come back to it the next day and do it again. And then come back to it the next day and do it again. And then you start working it out on stage and figuring out, okay, this doesn't work, this works, this can be added here, these two words can be taken away here. And before you know it, you've got the rhythm and everything necessary to happen to keep building and adding to it, as opposed to stopping. A lot of people stop because they think, okay, this is my bit, it's working, and I've done it, and people have heard it. But the bottom line is when you do your first television appearance, there's going to be more people watching that 5 minutes on television than 10,000 times the people that have seen you live on stage in comedy clubs for your entire career. And so you have to keep evolving and building on the bits. It doesn't hurt to do that. Nobody cares. As a matter of fact, people love it. They love to hear a bit where, oh my God, he added to that bit. That's incredible. If you watch the original Saturday Night Live with George Carlin, where he came out with the monologue, I believe he did the football and baseball routine. And the differences between both and how it's like war. And then I think he did an HBO special 15 years later in 1990. And he did that routine again, but he added to it. And he expanded it, and it was incredible. So that's the way I'd say to do it, unless you're a one-liner comedian, like somebody like Rodney Dangerfield. You know, yes, he has premises. The premise is his wife and him don't get along and they have a bad marriage. So then there's all these one-liners around that theme. But they're still standalone jokes, which I don't think would count in this area, but some people might say they would. So if I think of him, you know, like, and his wife, I think that, you know, these jokes, he could tell a story in 4 seconds. You know, I went to the bartender the other day. I said, surprise me. He pulled out a picture of my wife. Again, he's a day drinker or a night drinker. He's talking to the bartender, and then he finds out that his wife is having an affair. You know, his wife is a bad cook. I don't think meatloaf should glow in the dark. Another thing about his marriage and his wife not working out. You know, my wife's cooking is so bad the flies chipped in to buy a new screen door. Again, you know, the same theme, but jokes within it. So it can be many, many styles to add to your comedy. And just incrementally. It doesn't have to happen all at once. It doesn't have to happen in a week. It doesn't have to happen in a month. It doesn't even have to happen in a year. You can constantly be developing these premises and flushing them out. And the most original premises come with the most original jokes. And stay away from low-hanging fruit, like dick jokes or anything that you could hear anybody else say. And do things that you know very few people would ever do on stage or out in the world comedically. Those are the things that are going to take you to the next level. All right, last question from Hannah in Hollywood, California. With so much rejection and the years and years it may take with no guarantee of any payoff, are we all insane as comedians for even trying to make it in this business? Thank you, Hannah. No, you're not insane. But you are insane to want to do anything and not give it 100%. So most of the reasons why people don't make it and don't get where they want to go is they don't give it everything they have. They say they do, they think they do, but they don't. Like I mentioned, 2 people who were my assistants today. One's gone on 60 times in the past 2 months. 60 times in 60 days. So if you're a comedian who is wondering, are they going to make it or what's going to happen? And you've been on whatever, 10 times in 2 months, and you think you're doing well and you think you're getting out there. Well, the other person went on 50 more times than you. I mean, who's going to be a ton of times better than you? It's going to be that person who's persistent, who gets on, who works the stuff out over and over again. Even if they suck, they're going to get better. You can't help but get better through repetition. It's impossible. I don't care what it is. You could tell me that I'm now in charge of making paneling. Well, I don't know how to make paneling. And the first week I make paneling, I'm going to be pretty shitty. And the second week, I'm going to be a little bit better. The third week, a little bit better. And maybe by the end of the year, people are coming to me for my paneling. So you're not crazy for wanting to do things in this business. You're crazy for not trying to figure out how to surpass everybody else in work ethic, in terms of writing, producing, shooting, performing, and putting stuff out there in the world in social media and digital platforms. Every comic out there, if there's 1,000 comedians in Los Angeles, and you were to analyze it with an unbiased group of people, 1,000 comedians who haven't made it yet, or actors, or directors, or anybody, there's going to be one who's the hardest working, smartest working, most persistent artist out there, and there's going to be the 1,000th, and everywhere in between. And you have to pretend like the business that you're in is like the Hunger Games. You don't know what anybody's doing. You don't know how they're doing it. You don't know what they're doing, but they're doing it. And you have to anticipate and pass them. You have to navigate the people who say no, so you turn the no's into yeses. And if you're really passionate about the entertainment business, comedy, acting, whatever it is, then you are not crazy for wanting to do it with such a low percentage of return. Because yes, it's a low percentage of return. Yes, the chances are low. And the chances are low because most people don't dedicate the amount of effort to be in the top percentage of people doing it. They're down here. And that's why the chances are so slim. But the chances aren't slim when you're giving the most effort, the most persistence, and having the hardest work ethic to making things happen. Then the percentages are greater, and you can be like all the others around you that you see that are doing so well, who gave it everything they have. I'm going to stop with this group of questions. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. This is really wonderful. I loved all the questions from all over the world, and I hope you really enjoyed it as much as I did. And I'll be doing this once a month, and so just send all your questions in to @Barry Katz at Twitter or Instagram, or on my website at barrykatz.com. And be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can listen to this where all podcasts are seen or heard or whatever. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you again on Industry Standard.